We are live. So yeah, today we're just gonna be hanging out, playing some Explorer Ranked. So let's just get into that right away, shall we? Alright, we get an opponent, and hopefully get a good hand. Waiting for my opponent. Choose which player to play first. It's not a difficult decision. Okay, we might have our first opponent DC before the match. You hate to see it. Alright, no, they showed up, apparently. And now we have to choose whether to mulligan. Yeah, this hand is fine. Good solid 2, 3, 4. Nothing on 1. No real removal, but hopefully we don't need it. Alright, we are gonna need removal. Cool. So this hand is not great against green-white. Yeah, so they're... Alright, Fatal Push is not really what we want to see. I think we just need to play the Fear of Missing Out. Get rid of the Blood Tithe Harvester. And just hope blockers can get us there. Outland Liberator. Rude. So we really don't want that to ever flip if we can help it. I think I would be fine with them trading their Liberator for a part of my Fable. It seems like that would be good for me. No attacks. Let's make them do something. Now if they flip this... If they do nothing this turn and flip that, I will... Fatal Push the Trap Breaker. Let's toss 2 lands back, draw 2 more cards. So I will go to attack, get a treasure. And go to blocks. Alright, we take those. So obviously the Enduring Innocence returns, but now we get to play a land, push the Trap Breaker, force them to use it. Yep, there goes that. And Shieldred. And hopefully Shieldred is just enough on its own. It's also back today, which is nice, in case they have future nonsense. Enduring Innocence, significantly worse with Shieldred in play. That's also not a May, which probably won't be relevant, but you never know, it could be. Alright, Skyclave Apparition is 4 or less. It's annoying. The good news is that they still kind of don't have attacks. They have, like, infinite value, but I have a 2-3. Alright. Take your Collected Company? No. Dang. That would have been sick to take a Collected Company there. I think we pass, because if we crack the blood now, we're not going to have the mana to do anything interesting with it. So I think we pass and crack it on end step. Alright, they besage you my Fear of Missing Out, so now they can have attacks. I'll get a Blood Crypt tapped. Just the Enduring Innocence is coming in. I think no blocks. I think the Harvester is better off keeping all of these guys at bay than blocking one thing. Right, get rid of an extra land. Absolutely do not need those. We've been flooding a bit this game. Okay, Mutavault is, I guess, better than nothing. It's better than, like, a basic swamp. It's still pretty bad. Now I think... Now that I have Mutavaults for days, I think I do take the block. So they get that back. I don't really have exile removal in game 1 particularly anyway. That's a 3, so we're going to have to activate Fatal Push in order to kill it. Which, probably won't be too hard. Alright, they jam all out attacks, and they don't really have anything, so like this is just pretty good for me. I get to convert my lands into basically trading with things for spells. To eat a Llanowar Elves. I'll take 1 and save the Fatal Push. Elvish Mystic, not scary. Alright, give me a 4/4. Alright, so this is just gonna get Aven interrupted. Which is fine. And they get to draw infinite cards. Now, Plotted is on a future turn you can cast it. So I can't cast a Shielded right now. I can attack for 4. Basic land, Llanowar Elves. They get 2 more card draws off of these Innocences. I need this Shielded in play ASAP, and I need it to stick around as well. They attack with the Interrupter. Can't block the Flyer. Alright, don't draw another Interrupter. Alright, cool. Shieldred is in play. And Fable is in play. I think we attack. They could have Ambush Viper here, but whatever. Alright, just an Iganjo. That's fine. I think I will push the Interrupter while I have Revolt. Send it back to daytime. Another freaking Skyclave Apparition on my Shieldred again. Yikes. Man, if either of these Shieldred had stuck around for more than literally a single trigger each, like, I think I'd be in pretty good shape. But I just can't. Now they have Tyvar. Yeah, I don't know how to beat Tyvar. Like, the only way I know how to beat Tyvar would be Shieldred triggers draining them out. And that's apparently not going to happen. I guess... No, I mean... They have untapped creatures, so this has Indestructible. And they have double green, right? Yeah, they have double green. So they can give everything plus a billion, plus a billion. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm looking for, but it's definitely not Withering Torment. I guess we can try to get our 4/4 back. Skyclave Apparition. What a fair card. Just giving me all these infinite 4/4s. Alright, no attacks there. We have to pass. Now, I'm at 13. Can they trigger this twice? They can. Alright, well, I guess we take our blocks. They trigger Tyvar again, give everything +6/+6. Very fair. Alright. So you're saying there's a chance. So Tyvar is gone, we have 2 blockers. They need to have literally nothing ever for the rest of the game. And they've drawn a billion extra cards, so... Alright. Not casting the Thoughtseize when I'm at 3 and my opponent has 1/1s. Technically not an unwinnable position, especially if my opponent continues to do nothing. Alright, Unholy Annex is big. So this can get me life gain and card draw. And obviously we still don't ever attack here. Alright, they had the Collected Company. Which probably means I die. Oh yeah, super dead. Super dead to that. So Apparition gets rid of that and denies me my life gain. Trapbreaker blows up my Reflection and we die. Alright, let's take in Sweepers and removal spells. And Hitotsugu Consumes All seems kind of bad. Invoke Despair can get rid of enchantments. Alright, Duress is out. Withering Torment and Thoughtseizes are... You know, like, life total is definitely a threat in this matchup. And, like, 1-for-1ing them isn't great either. Alright, we'll keep this and just hope to draw lands for pretty much, like, if we draw lands for the rest of the game, I'd honestly be kind of happy with that. Lead on a swamp. Give me a land. Alright, it gave me a land. Now I can play Liliana. A red source gives me Anger of the Gods. Oh, give me a red source. No red source. I think I play Fable here. Try to get them to trade their Liberator for it. And also just help me search for a red source. I think we get rid of Liliana and Annex. Alright, we fail to find a red source. So let's see, we go to attacks. We get a treasure. I guess we let them go to blocks. Alright, we will bargain targeting that, sacrificing that, because it was going to die anyway. Trapbreaker down, unless they have some sort of combat trick. Alright, they have a Coco. Archon of Emeria, are you kidding me? And Werefox Bodyguard? So they've just, in one go, completely obliterated me. I still have this Anger. And now I guess I'm not cracking the treasure, so I'll have double red next turn. Alright, they're leaving 2 mana up. Do I want to fire up a Mutavault here? I guess I have a backup Mutavault, so it's fine if I lose it. It's not tapping me out of anything in particular. Alright, do I block the Bodyguard and put the Liberator back in play so that it can get swept up with the anger? Wait, what? I forgot to actually declare blocks. Whoops. Alright. That was pretty bad. But ultimately not the worst. Alright, so Fable flips. They don't have Aven Interrupter mana available. They could have some sort of other thing, but they apparently don't. Well, I'm going to play the Annex and draw a card. Seems pretty bad, but whatever. That flips over. So if they want to trade that for my Annex, that's fine as well. Alright, now I think the play is land, make a demon. So this gives me the most value out of my Annex before it disappears next turn. I guess I could play 2 spells again. Alright, they are going to Werefox Bodyguard my demon. So I'll fire up the Mutavault in response to gain my life anyway. Still taking 5, which is not ideal, and losing the Annex. Yeah, maybe I should have gone Shieldred plus Fear that turn. Well, not going to say no to another Anger of the Gods. Please don't Aven Interrupter this. They Aven Interrupter it, of course. Alright. I'm going to play Shieldred. It is a 4/5 blocker. Flips the Liberator back as well for all that the good that does. Now we just have to not die this turn, resolve Anger, and not get Aven Interrupted again. Alright. Looks like Operation Not Die this turn is good. Skyclave Apparition. That's... Of all the timings to do that, that's fine. Now we resolve Anger. Clear up the board, get a 4/4. And then we play out our hand and just draw a card with Fear of Missing Out. You love to see it. Alright. Now we pass. Now we're the ones with the big scary board. We also have Fear plus Blade of the Oni, which is a nuts combo. Alright. Spooky there, but we got there in the end. Just need to cast a bunch of Anger of the Gods, and then everything works out pretty well from there. And yeah, I think like I said at the beginning of the game, if I just draw lands for the rest of the game, it seems pretty good, and that's basically what happened. Opponent also got mana screwed there as well, which is notable. Alright. They make some map tokens, which is much better for me than them playing Alanor Elves. Absolutely not. Get out of here. I'll play a Blade of the Oni. Who knows what this will do. Might even be able to pressure them this game if they have slow stuff. Ooh, a Fable. You'll have to see that. It's probably going to get Aven interrupted. It resolves. It resolves, and they bodyguard away the Blade. Okay, but that means I might get Invoke Despair next turn, which would be pretty sick. Off of the treasure. Okay. Enduring Innocence is pretty good for them. So if they trade the Enduring Innocence for the Goblin Shaman, then that's actually great for me because of the Invoke Despair. Yeah, I think we'll just discard one Mutavault. Third Invoke Despair. Well, that's going to be very fun. Let's see if they take this trade. Yeah, so they think this is good for them. Like, they're trading a creature for, like, half a creature. But actually, it's brutal. Because now this is no longer an enchantment creature, so they have to lose both of these. Alright, and if I just keep drawing lands, I can just keep doing that. So let's attack first. What is this? Back to nature, destroy all enchantments. Alright. That's certainly a sideboard card. So I'm gonna just play some artifact creatures, I guess. Do I need all of these Invoke Despairs? Probably would be nice to have them all. Is the third Invoke Despair better than the Anger? Screw it. I'm gonna be very greedy and go for it. Because my board is insane right now. I do not want to Anger. Archon plus Skyclave. Okay, well, I'm going to be casting one spell a turn for the foreseeable future, so Archon's not really a concern. Takenuma, what's in here? Just a fear of missing out. Let's invoke Despair again, see what you pick this time. Alright. Opponent is at 6. I have a 3-power Menace creature. I have third Invoke Despair. Is it going to be third Invoke Despair plus Anoint with Affliction? Yes, I do have the mana for that. Seems pretty good. So they can sack the Liberator to kill the Blade. Alright. So I think we go to combat first. Force them to do that without knowing. They can't go to 3, right? Alright, apparently they can go to 3. Alright, do I need another black source? Well, I certainly don't need another red source. So you can pick whichever one, and then I will... Yeah. Pretty good. I guess that this actually kills them, right? Because they don't have an enchantment for once. I'm used to them having an enchantment and that only dealing 2, but... Yeah, the attacking first killed them. So that's nice. Alright, let's do another one. It's fun playing against those green-white decks. It seems, you know, like a very dynamic game, as opposed to the the Yorion decks where it's just sort of, you know, they do their thing and it's either too slow and I win or it's too fast and I lose. Like, there's lots of back and forth. Like, both players have sideboard cards. Alright, well, speaking of Yorion decks, we're playing against one here. And the quadruple creature start. I think we have to go for it and just try to run them over. Like, interacting with these Yorion decks is, in my experience, nearly impossible. Like, you just have to do your thing. Well, next turn I can Duress plus Fear of Missing Out, and maybe that'll accomplish something. Alright. So this is looking like the self-bounce deck, which is a much better matchup for me. Still not amazing. But if it is, like, you know, this town ain't big enough, and the Pixie and all that stuff, I can win that matchup. We'll see when we cast this Duress. It is. Alright, cool. We have a playable game. Duress you. I think we take... Yeah, honestly, I think we take the Narset here. Like, the whole you can't draw thing is annoyingly relevant against my hand, so I would like them to not have access to that. We'll trade creatures real quick, and I'll play another one. Alright, now we could double spell here, or we could just jam Shieldred. They have no board. They can't even cast this town immediately, although I think they can. Yeah, so they can Omen of the Sea and then bounce it with this town to tempo the Shieldred. But they're not doing that, which they can do it on their upkeep as well. So getting both of the omens out of the way makes sense. They're likely to have a removal spell now, but they're likely to have one in the future anyway. They're just scrying on upkeep. That bodes very well for me. Alright. Alright, no, they were just triggering Revolt. Understandable. Alright. Let's play a... Let's play a Fear of Missing Out, pitch the Fable, look for a land. Alright, Thoughtseize is pretty good anyway, so now we can take this town, deny them a ton of value, and we kill that, and now we have Delirium, so we can attack them for 4. Alright, the race is on with double Fear of Missing Out, and they don't really have an engine at the moment. Alright, another Fatal Push. They sure do have a couple of those, huh? And attack you down to 9 and pass. So now they can start doing this town shenanigans. Alright. I'll keep the Fear of Missing Out because it provides more value than the Blade. And we pitch the Torch the Tower to try to find literally like any creature. An Unholy Annex. Immediately low-key wish I had the other thing, but that's fine. We'll Duress now to make them do something. We'll take the Momentum Breaker. And I don't think I want to recast the Fear of Missing Out. Now that I have the Unholy Annex, I want to get this into play. So opponent has treaded water here for a bit, but they don't really have a value engine at the moment. Like they have another Omen of the Sea to look for one, but... Alright, do we just Ritual Chamber, make a demon here? They can't immediately answer it unless they find something off of the Omen. Alright, they scry 2 to the top, which means I assume they have this town or something. Yep. This deck is so tilting to play against, because like they never quite have it, but they always top deck it. Alright. Now I'm down to 8, which is worrying. So I can Fear of Missing Out, discard a land, I guess. Withering Torment could be a spell. It's a bit dicey with the life total, but Blood Tithe Harvester is great. Now we pass, draw a card, ouch. Sheoldred is fantastic. If we can live and they don't answer Sheoldred, then we're in good shape again. Yep, it's Yorion time. I don't have Withering Torment available, so I can't, like, stop the Storm Chaser's Talent in response or anything. So they get to draw 2 cards and make a 1/1. Pretty good. I would love to find a demon so that my life total stops being the way that it is. Alright, I'm just going to Fatal Push an Otter. I know that's what I'm doing. This is 5, so it's out of range of Fatal Push plus Revolt anyway. Alright, so Sheoldred. And Fear of Missing Out isn't doing anything. None of my attacks are doing anything. Alright, so we pass here. Draw a card. Stay at 6, thanks to Sheoldred. We can use the blood token to get up to 8, which should keep us alive. And also, they have just drawn a card, which means they don't have a removal spell for Sheoldred, which is very good. Alright, they drew one. Here, let me draw a card real quick. Thank you. Now, if they fire up both Mutavaults and go all-in attacks, I'm still fine, I think. We need the Blood Tithe Harvester to threaten to trade with the Otter. Alright, they don't make any attacks. They probably could have attacked with the Yorion. I'm just going to make a demon. And no attacks. Yep. They gain life. I gain life. Hopefully their raw top decks don't work well for them. If we can untap here, we almost certainly win. Alright. Sack the Blood Tithe Harvester. I still have a 6/6. So you can, what, get back this town, Momentum Breaker again. You don't have the mana to this town and do another Momentum Breaker this turn, right? Oh, yeah, I guess that just bounces my demon. Yikes, go to 3. This deck is so frustrating to play against because like they never have like an advantage, and yet they're super far ahead. Like I don't know how to describe it other than that like they just get lucky top decks every day for the entire game. And now I am dead to Ritual Chamber plus Mutavault attacks. Very cool. Alright, let's get Invoke Despair in. Unlicensed Hearse, low-key, kind of good. Anger of the Gods, pretty good. It's not amazing, but like they do have a lot of random little guys. Nah. A lot of their stuff is not great for that. Liliana in. So then what do we bring out? Like their creatures are like random otter tokens and Yorions. So we need 6 cuts. My discard spells are great in this matchup. The removal spells are fine. Torch the Tower and Fatal Push maybe can go. And we'll just rely on having creatures to block their otters. I don't know. Alright, we have a very clean Duress into Blade into hopefully draw a 3rd land in Unholy Annex. It could go wrong if we get mana screwed for ages, but that's unlikely. We're on the draw. We're on the draw, and we have a good number of turns to draw it. Also, they're mulliganing. You love to see it. There's nothing more satisfying than your opponent getting unlucky. Like, if my opponents could mulligan to 3 every game, I would be very happy. Alright, they have an Annex of their own. A couple removal spells, a talent. I'll take their Annex. It's a slightly different build than I'm used to, but Annex is just a busted card, so I'm going to take the busted card. Alright, land acquired. I think we will play that. So now we want to kind of slow roll the Annex, I guess, because they have all this removal. Yeah, so it's going to be kind of hard for me to get a demon. So I'll just play the Fable. Hopefully they push the Goblin Shaman. Alright, they do. Now the question is, Annex or Shieldred? Oh, Duress is exciting. I think I decline here. So I can land Duress. Alright, they cast Omen. So they're going to scry, put something good on top of their deck. Probably. And then 2 tops again. Alright, they let us take a Narset. Now I play a Shieldred, or now I play an Annex. I'd have loved to have an additional mana there to fire up the Mutavault. Okay, Momentum Breaker takes the Swamp. And hopefully I just draw another land naturally. I would love Shieldred plus fire up Mutavault. I'm just going to play Shieldred. They're not close to Yorion. they're not close to Yorion put into hand and play, so my creatures are safe from Momentum Breaker for a while. Alright, they scry 2, turn on Revolt for Fatal Push purposes. Double bottom, you love to see it. If you top deck a Fatal Push, I'll be very sad. They didn't. Alright, this is actually huge. I should have played the Thoughtseize first. My life total isn't a concern anymore. Let's do this nonsense. Attack with our guys. Untap the Reflection. And now we make another copy. Gain more life. We attack. This time we untap the Sheoldred. And then we go to attacks. And we attack with the Sheoldred. And then post-combat we fire up the Mutavault. So we're back up to 22 life. They're down to 4, and they're going to be drawing a card here. Okay, so that is good for them, at least. So they didn't have the mana for that last turn, which is why they didn't cast it, obviously. And they draw the Fatal Push as well. Brutal. Alright, so if I go land Sheoldred, yeah, so they still die there, because that's sorcery speed. And let's run her back. Waiting on your opponent. They're going to choose to play first, of course. That's an easy mulligan. Just does nothing. This hand is very painful. I think we keep it, throw back Blood Tithe Harvester, and just hope to top deck an Annex and go crazy with that. Alright, this is obviously a fair bit worse against Otters, because these are 3/1s. But we do draw Fear of Missing Out, so that's cool. Alright, I think we get rid of one of the blades. And we Fear of Missing Out, pitching Go for the Throat, I guess. Alright, Unlicensed Tourist is fine. It's not incredible by any means. Alright, Fatal Push. My poor little guy. Yeah, Momentum Breaker seems sweet for them. I'd really rather they didn't have it, but here we are. So now they can Momentum Breaker kill my guy again. And now they can even use that to gain 4 life if they want. Thoughtseize is actually great. I think I discard those two. Dress even better. Alright, so they just put a Nowhere to Run into play for no value, just so that they can bounce it later. I'll put a Blade of the Oni into play. And we really need to draw a card advantage engine soon. They have Storm Chaser's talent for Fatal Push, I guess. And they have Add Yorion to hand. Which is actually fine, so I can Thoughtseize that. So the big threat is gone. Now I guess we attack with the Blade, because we're never blocking with it. And we have Reflection, double Mutavault on defense. We are at 7. We really need an Unholy NX very soon. How about another land? Alright, let's make 2 Blades and attack with both of them. Alright. The channel Odawara. I think I might have actually messed up there. So now they could have fired up the Mutavault, and it would have been pretty good for them. Now they get back the Fatal Push, kill the Blade. Alright, Mutavault blocks. Go to 3. And another freaking land. No attacks. Need to leave the Reflection back in case something weird happens. Alright, I need to draw something exactly this turn. And it needs to be something insanely good, because they have a max level Storm Chaser's talent. Fable doesn't do it. Yep, and we flood out. Super unfortunate. Like, I don't know, I like playing Magic. I don't like sitting here drawing lands while my opponent plays Magic, you know? I think maybe next stream I'll go back to Is It Phoenix. That deck at least like never mana floods, because it can always use infinite mana on any given turn. Alright, easy mulligan. Mediocre keep. Hopefully 3 mana spells are good against my opponent. Thoughtseize plus 3 mana spells. Take the Overlord. Alright. This is going to be a game of Magic of all time. Naturally. Of course they would top deck the Overlord. Why wouldn't they? It's not like, you know, I just took one out of their hand or anything. That would be silly. Alright, well we have some time before that becomes a thing. Let's play a Fable. Probably eat a Fatal Push, which will be better for my Ritual Chambers later, hopefully. And an Abrupt Decay. Definitely better for my Ritual Chambers. I would love a Demon. That's not a Demon. Well, fine. I'll just draw multiple cards a turn. Mutavault is like one of the best top decks I have. Alright. Zur, Eternal Schemer. Thank you. Very cool. And that is hexproof for some reason. Well, I guess I kill that. And I guess I fire up a Mutavault. But now my opponent gets to make all the mana in the world. And they're at 23 because, of course, that gives lifelink for some reason. And of course, they top deck another Overlord because they're a player who isn't me, so naturally they'll always top deck great cards. Like, just think, they haven't done any selection this game, right? Literal zero. Just always top deck the perfects with no effort. I will make a 6/6 demon and die. Very cool. Alright, Invoke Despair in. Liliana in, I guess. Fatal Push all the way out. Torch the tower out. I guess Bankbuster's value and Extinction Event can kill some things. Alright, well, this hand presents a reasonable clock. Duress take the Leyline Binding. Helps a little bit. Mutavault Blade of the Oni. Alright, we attack for 3. See what happens. Fear of missing out. Pitch. Pitch a pathway. Colors are fun, and this gives us more of them. So now they get to start casting Overlords. Alright, we get a tap land, which is not ideal. I think we fear of missing out discarding that, and we draw another one anyway. So what's my Delirium right now? Sorcery land? I could have put a Blade of the Oni into the graveyard and gotten Delirium. Enigmatic Incarnation, of course. They would top deck that. So now they turn Overlord into some other ridiculous card. Very cool. Alright, well. So much for winning the game. Now our plan is to cheese them with Shieldred. That doesn't have lifelink, right? Alright, cool. So maybe I'll cheese them with Shieldred, and they'll just lose for some reason. Seems unlikely, though. Seems like this is going to be another pile into the 80% of matches where I go 0-2 against this deck. Like, it's not technically unbeatable, but boy, is it close to unbeatable. Bankbuster, Blood Crypt. Are any of these attacks good? No, of course not. I'll play a second Blade of the Oni. And pass. Alright, that's just permanent for some reason, so that's just a 4/4 Death Touch Lifelink Hexproof now. Noxious Gearhulk, very cool. remember when, like, my opponent didn't have any of this stuff in their hand, and then they just didn't draw any extra cards for the rest of the game and drew it all naturally? Because I remember. Alright. Well, let's draw a card and see if a miracle can happen. Nope. We concede. Yeah, there is no world in which the deck I am playing is the best deck in the format and the deck my opponent playing is Fringe. Like, it's just incomprehensible. Alright, let's see what this opponent is playing. Hopefully not Yorion again. Alright, our hand is good. We have a Duress, we have an Annex and a Fable. Attack with Fatal Push onto that. You love to see it. And it's... not quite a mirror. They're Mardu, I guess. Sure. Let's play a tap land and pass. And probably kill their creatures. Yep. Goodbye, Blood Tithe Harvester. They have Bitter Triumph. Trying to think. I guess I can either Fable the Mirror Breaker here, or Blade of the Oni plus Fatal Push. Blade of the Oni plus Fatal Push just gets my Blade Bitter Triumphed, and then I'm kind of nowhere in terms of getting this Annex working. So I think I will lead on Fable the Mirror Breaker, give them something else to triumph. Alright. We didn't give them something else to triumph, but we did get a removal spell out of their hand at least. Alright, the difference between 20 and 17 is not huge. Let's get rid of 2 lands here. Yep. As expected, like, the odds of drawing a land with this deck are quite high, so... I think we shock, Fatal Push, Unholy Annex. Just get this into play before they draw a discard spell. And we will worry about how to keep the demon around when it comes to that. They discard the Bitter Triumph. That's pretty good for me. And I even draw a Thoughtseize to protect the blade. Alright, they are really, really digging now. Alright, a Duress. Even better. I would love to take your last 2 cards. Oh, it's Greasefang. Fun, that's what they're doing. Okay, well, Greasefang is gone. Now I just have to hope you never draw another Greasefang for the rest of the game. And you concede, despite the fact that you had 3 game-winning draws in your deck. So I guess there's nothing in the rules saying your opponent has to concede properly. Let's bring in our anti-Greasefang tech. Bring out Duress because it's incredibly sketchy. Like, a lot of the times you're going to be putting stuff they want in the graveyard into the graveyard. Hidetsugu consumes all, can clear the graveyard if we survive long enough. Probably just cut 2 Blood Tithe Harvesters. I don't know, they can like block a Grease Fang, I guess, but realistically, if a Grease Fang is ever in play, we lose, so let's not worry about that too much. Oh, this is awkward, but I think we keep. We get Thaw Seized on 1, and we have nothing. Alright, they take our Thought Seize, which means they probably have more discard. Let's shock that in. So now if they have a Grease Fang somehow, we can double torch. Alright, that seems like that's just going to threaten Grease Fang next turn. Let's Thought Seize them. That's a great pickup. Yeah, you get out of here. Mutavault in play. So now they can discard a Parhelion, but they don't have a Grease Fang currently. They also have a Vanishing Verse, which I'm going to need to get through. I would love to be able to play around Vanishing Verse. I think I just torch the Goblin before they get the chance to make a treasure. Alright, they didn't tap out of Vanishing Verse this turn. I did draw a second Annex, so that's something. I can't just play an Annex out and instantly get it Vanishing Versed. I think we pass. And I should have played a tapped Blood Crypt there. We can torch the Reflection. I think we have to torch the Reflection. It's just way more threatening than Harvester. Gulp. Ketramos. Alright, well that's concerning. Alright, well how do I beat a Ketramos? So this is going to be on Ritual Chamber, because they're going to Vanishing Verse it, but at least this leaves me with a 6/6. They don't Vanishing Verse it immediately, which is obviously wrong. Like, there's no reason for them to not Vanishing Verse either the Ritual Chamber or the Demon. Does it have Menace? Of course it has Menace. Why wouldn't it have Menace? And if I use my Graveyard Hate, it turns on Ketramos. That's actually kind of sick. I don't know if it's good, but it's definitely cool. You're like, what am I going to do? Unlicensed Terse? Oh, cool. They found a Grease Fang. Ah, fun interactive Magic the Gathering. I do love playing a back and forth game, but then they top deck something, so it's just instantly over. My favorite style of Magic is when none of the decisions you made matters. Alright, I have to mulligan that. I have to keep this. It's not good, but can't go to 5 against a discard deck. I think we get rid of Fatal Push, because it doesn't really deal with Grease Fang. Unlicensed Hearse and Anoint with Affliction both do in their own way. I assume they take the Hearse here. Yep, no surprise there. Alright, there's the Fear of Missing Out, which is going to put a Parhelion into the graveyard. No, it puts a Greasefang into the graveyard. Alright, wasn't expecting that. Do I kill the Fear? No. The old classic no red mana. Meanwhile, my opponent attacks for 2. Okay. I think we do kill the Fear of Missing Out here. It's a lot more concerning than one half of the Fable. There's nothing we can do about the other half anyway. Well, I can't do anything if they Fable loot a Parhelion into the bin and put a Greasefang into play. I just have to put a Sheoldred into play and hope they don't have it. They didn't have it last time. There's a Parhelion, and they binned a Greasefang earlier, so I assume they have a second one and I'm dead. Please don't have a Greasefang. Please just pass the turn. Nope. Cool. Yep. So then that gets them just... It deals like 16 damage and puts 2 4/4s into play. Alright. We do another one. Maybe this opponent will be interested in playing sensible games of Magic. Alright, we have a turn 1 Duress, turn 3 Annex. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, it's Ketramos nonsense. Very cool. I think we take the Vacuum. The Vacuum is just insane with Ketramos, which they have in their hand. We're just going to have to take that and get through the Vanishing Verse somehow. At least this opponent isn't a Greasefang deck. So we got that going for us. Do I Unholy Annex here, or do I Fable? Fable gives me the higher chance of drawing another Thoughtseize to take the Ketramos, but Unholy Annex is more value in the short term. They might tap out to Vanishing Verse the Annex. Yeah, but no, they're just going to play Ketramos. Well, I'm going to play Sheoldred. So good luck with your Ketramos. I assume they Vanishing Verse Sheoldred here. Yep. And that draws them a card. And of course Sheoldred is gone before that happens. Because why wouldn't it work that way? Just... Sheoldred never gets to have any fun. I'm joking, of course. Sheoldred is completely busted, and it would be incredibly stupid if it didn't work that way. Well, we'll Duress you, I guess. But, like, you have a Ketramos in play, so... I don't know where we go from here, like... Yippee, we have a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They have Graveyard Trespasser. And Sheoldred. Like, whichever one they want to do just completely annihilates me. They're going for Push plus Trespasser. Draw, what? 1 card this time? 2 cards every other time, probably. Oh, and they have a Ghost Vacuum. I'm never in a billion years outgrinding Ketramos plus Ghost Vacuum. It's just not happening. Let's bring in our answers to that. So all of this is good. Duress is bad. Destroy removal is like kind of bad. Like, they're always going to have a billion cards in hand. Thoughtseize can take a Ketramos, which bricks their entire deck, basically. I think we also go down, torch the tower, and one Fatal Push. Sort of the plan here, what we're doing is we're getting rid of single target removal for sweepers, and the sweepers also tended to incidentally beat Ketramos as well. Alright, we keep a Thoughtseize hand. Thoughtseize plus Anoint. Should theoretically be able to deal with 2 Ketramoses. Alright, they don't have a Ketramos. They do have a Go Blank. I think I take the Ghost Vacuum anyway. Like, at some point, they're going to have a Ketramos, and Ghost Vacuum is going to be busted with it. I think we get rid of Extinction Event, seeing their hand. Like, just having creatures seems like it's going to be the best way of dealing with this. And I need to keep at least 3 cards in hand so that I don't have to discard Anoint to go blank. Alright, there's Ketramos. That's fine. I'll get rid of Fatal Push Blood Crypt. Exile you. And Blade of the Oni. So, playing Blade of the Oni here, just on the off chance I top deck an Annex next turn. Right. Sheoldred is... Shout out to Fatal Push. Also, Reflection leaving turns on Revolt, which is very funny. So, goodbye. Attack you for 1 billion. Play a Blood Tithe Harvester, because why not? They have the Go Blank, don't want to leave things in hand. They could have sweepers. They probably have sweepers, but apparently not in hand. Alright. That works pretty well. Just mess with your opponent's stuff, and then kill them. That's how you have to win games of Magic. You interfere with your opponent a little bit, and then attack them with 2 2s and 3 2s and 2 3s while they're trying to put something back together. So apparently there's like a ban list announcement in a couple days. I wonder if they'll hit Pioneer at all. Probably not. They probably just don't care about the format anymore, but it would be nice if... I haven't thought too much about like what exactly I want banned, but I want something banned. I'm out for blood. Probably Yorion, actually. I feel like Yorion is just too obnoxious. Alright, well, we take their Ketramos. Gonna have to fight through a Wandering Emperor somehow, but that is a bridge to wheel across when we get there. Mutavault's pretty good at dealing with Wandering Emperor, Planeswalkers in general, I guess. Urborg does unfortunately make their mana good, which isn't a huge deal, but you know, it is a thing. Alright, we're going to play out another Blood Tithe Harvester. I really should have played Mutavault as my land for turn. I didn't really need to play the Verge this turn. Having the Mutavault not be summoning sick in the future would be quite huge. Potentially, depending on, obviously, what they do. Alright, single target removal spell. Not great for me, but it's fine. If they draw another Ketramos at any point, I'm kind of in deep trouble. Alright. You're gonna play a Wandering Emperor. I can't realistically, like... If I don't do that, then, like, what? They just play it and downtick, get a 2-2, and then I'm somehow in an even worse position. I'm gonna play out Blade of the Oni and not crack the blood immediately.
I hope you're ready to lose.
Alright, so do you make a 2-2, do you kill the Harvester? Kill the Harvester. I probably would have made a 2-2. Like, the 2-2 blocks the Harvester anyways. Okay, they're just doing both and losing their Emperor, which works for me. My hand is bad, so have fun with that. Alright, absolutely getting rid of this Blackleaf Cliffs. Annoying with Affliction is a great top deck. Now I have Ketramos covered. Thoughtseize is also pretty good. Alright, they're on double lands. So even if they top deck a Ketramos, they can't exile anything. This is like super aggro. Alright, so they could double block the Blade. Yeah, that's not the best for me, but it's still fine. I still push 2 points of damage and get rid of the Knight. Alright, not cracking the blood. So if they want to block the Mutavault with a Fountain Port, that's fine. They pay a life for it anyway. Alright, there's a Fish. There's a Verge. I think I tossed the Fatal Push, try to find something more threatening. Like a Sheoldred. That's a good one. So they can sack the Fish to draw a card in response, or they could just make more Fish. Yep, they're just making more Fish, going down to 5, going down to 3. Can you beat a Sheoldred? Opponent has flooded a lot here, at least especially like compared to me. They draw a card. Yep, and so that card doesn't deal with Sheoldred, then their next one can't, because it'll just put the death trigger on the stack. Alright. See how fun games of Magic are when both players are doing fair mid-range instead of combo nonsense? Alright. Duress into Infinite Fear of Missing Outs. Works for me. We're against Yorion, so we probably lose. But we have to try. Alright, they have Beans and Infinite Removal. Well, I'll take the Beans. And Infinite Removal is going to line up pretty well against this hand, but I might top deck something. I think I play a Fear of Missing Out here, toss another Fear of Missing Out, and the next turn I think we Duress plus Fear. Or we could Fable next turn and then Duress plus Fear the turn after that, I guess. Would also be an option. That would give them another chance to draw a card, but it would also mean I have a chance to duress that card. Alright, there goes another Fear of Missing Out. I think I just duress them here. I'm definitely going to get something good. Like a Vanishing Verse. Play a Fear of Missing Out, pitch a Blood Crypt. Alright, we find a tap land. That's worse. The fact that this is not a May is, like, kind of brutal. Alright, let's see if they just instantly remove my Fable. No, they instantly remove my Fear, and then, alright. My opponent has chosen to concede a game they were probably 98% chance to win. Like, genuinely, if the game plays out, I'm not putting them under any pressure. And I think I just heard, yeah. I'm going to assume that they ran out of time, they had to do something, like, you know, they just realized dinner's finished. Ooh, Emberheart Challenger. That's a playable card. You love to see that. Basically a rare wild card, if I ever craft that deck. I'm going to assume that opponent had to go somewhere. Like I said, their deck is like 90% against mine. Like 89% against mine after that, but alright. We've managed to mulligan to 5. We absolutely cannot keep a one-lander on the play, especially a one-lander with only one color of mana where most of our hand is the other color. Like, even if we draw another land, what if it's a basic swamp, then what? Alright, this hand is also bad, but it's slightly less bad, I guess. Alright. If opponent casts a Thoughtseize or something, I might just concede. Although I've already shown them Takenuma, so I guess that doesn't really make sense. Thank you, Duress. Very cool. Right on time. I think we play the Harvester. Try to just get lucky on the land. Is this another Ketramos deck? Alright. We get Fatal Pushed, which is pretty bad. I mean, like, my out is them having nothing. Like, I've mulliganed to 5 in a grindy matchup. It's basically over. I need them to not have anything ever. Okay, they're Mardu Greasefang, probably. Alright. We're going to take some intel on the way out. Yep, Mardu Greasefang. Alright, so we bring in the Hearse. We bring in the Hidetsugus. The Anoint with Affliction. And we bring out Duress. We bring out Torch the Tower, maybe. And I think we have to leave... I should Torch the Tower in, Fatal Push down, because it's easier to have a random token on the field than it is to specifically lose a permanent. So, like, if I have to do something like crack... If I have Fatal Push and they play Greasefang, and I have something like Crack Blood, turn on Revolt, push the Greasefang, I would also just be able to Torch the Tower, bargain the blood, kill the Greasefang, which would be 1 less mana, so is more likely to be available. Alright, I mean, this is fine, I guess. It has Withering Torment up on 3. It has a Blade of the Oni to apply pressure. And I am just going to jam out the Blade of the Oni. They're going to kill it, and it's going to be fine. Alright, there's Overlord. Does the Overlord hit anything? It doesn't hit a vehicle, which means Greasefang is not actually a threat this exact coming turn. So I think we play aggressive here. They don't have anything in the graveyard to get back with Greasefang. They can't get anything there for 0 mana. We're going to start drawing cards and draining them, and then next turn we can play Unlicensed Terrace and have the graveyard covered that way. Also, no white mana out of them, which is kind of funny. Alright, we attack here, play the hearse, have the graveyard covered, and pass. They're down to 10 already somehow. Not sure how that happened. Alright. They still have no vehicles in the yard. They still have no white mana. What is going on with their deck? Like, this is not how this works. Alright, they're just like being bad Rakdos midrange, I guess. And they still don't have a Greasefang in play. Although now they have white mana for it. Let's take Harvester Thoughtseize, I guess. Like to keep Delirium off if possible. Alright, Sheoldred is great. Is there any way I can leave mana up? No. So I will play Tapland, Sheoldred. Well, I can leave mana up, but not enough to do anything. So Tapland plus Sheoldred. Pass the turn. Gain our life. And now they have to get through a whole lot of stuff in order to combo. They have to get through an Unlicensed Hearse. Well, yeah. So in order to combo, they have to get through an Unlicensed Hearse. And play the Greasefang. And I'm also at 24. Like, a Parhelion does not win the game for them here, which is pretty cool. Alright. They have Fatal Push for Sheoldred. That's fine. This Hidetsu consumes all next turn, weirdly getting 3 things-ish. Right, there's another Fear of Missing Out. And at this point, like, I just need to survive for a turn or two. Alright, Greasefang goes to the yard, which makes sense. They do not have any vehicles. Being at 24 is so cool. I could just, like, take hits and be fine. Oh. I left them with Delirium. That's a mistake. Is this an intervening if? I think it is. I think I can cut them off of Delirium in response to this. So let's get rid of Artifact Creature. And now that doesn't do anything. Yep. Shout out to Unlicensed Hearse. That's my boy. And now they're dead to Withering Torment. I get rid of a blocker. Attack for 3. Alright, get rid of that. Attack them for 3 down to 1. Blade of the Oni has Menace, which is pretty neat. And I'll play a second Blade of the Oni just to make extra double sure. Alright, we take a game, and all it took was them not having the combo at all in any sense. Like by any sense of the word, they didn't have the combo. And really, they were just playing Rakdos midrange, but worse, because they don't have Annex or Shieldred. They might have Shieldred in the deck, actually. I don't know exact deck lists. Alright, let's try to steal another game like that. It would be pretty cool. Alright, easiest mulligan of my life. Alright, not easiest, second easiest. I've had 7 landers before. Alright, we take these, and... Fatal Push bottom, I guess? Alright, they have Thoughtseize. They're going to take the Hearse. So I need to Blood Tithe Harvester. I need them to not put anything in the graveyard on my end step here. They don't. So now Greasefang doesn't do anything, and I can hold up Torch the Tower for the rest of the game. Unless they have more discard spells, which is likely. Alright, there's a Greasefang. It just sits on the board doing nothing. Well, step 1 is attack. See if they want to block and trade. Looks like they're considering it. They choose not to. Step 2 is Thoughtseize you. Take second Greasefang. Kill first Greasefang. I guess that's probably better than average. It's certainly not great. But they have Portable Hole for the Harvester, so like we're not winning this game anytime soon. Alright, so now we play this on red. Hitsugu consumes all, blow up the Portable Hole, get our Harvester back. Which is some pretty sick tech. And now if they don't draw a Greasefang this turn, we pop the Graveyard, get rid of that Parhelion. Alright, they have a Fatal Push to get rid of the Harvester for the second time, and a 4th land. Alright, yep. You can attack me for 2 twice. I'm going to pitch the Sokenzan. Try to find something actually good. Find an Urborg instead. Goodbye Graveyards. Fear of missing out is now just a 2/3 for the time being. Alright. No attacks, scare the Mutavault. Love to see it. Hitsugu consumes all, flips. We really need is a like a Numisance Terse or something. Something that deals with the graveyard permanently. And I have 2 mana available, so this could flip into it, so I will cycle the blood now. Nope, just a land. Alright, We have attacks again next turn, and Vessel the All-Consuming might put in some work here. Alright. If their last card is Greasefang, they have 3 cards, one of which could be a Greasefang, in which case I lose. So hopefully none of those 3 cards are Greasefang. Alright, we dodge. We draw an Unholy Annex. That's kind of hype. Let's make our attacks. Alright, they double block the Vessel. So I get rid of the Fear. And I guess Ritual Chamber threatens lethal next turn, so I guess we'll do that. The alternative... Alright. Vanishing Verse on the Demon. Well, that's decent for me, as long as they don't hit a Greasefang. If they hit a Greasefang, then I'm in trouble, but that's just how the matchup works. Attacking. You're not saving that for chumps? Alright, well, I'm going to swing in for 5. Unlock the Annex. Play a land, because I might draw a 2-mana removal spell. I don't. Opponent is at literal 1. If they top deck a Greasefang here and gain 8-ish, I'm going to be very sad. It's 7, right? This doesn't create additional bodies when it attacks. Is that the good game of you drew a Greasefang? Alright, it's the good game of Thoughtseize yourself. Whew! Alright. Man, beating the Greasefang deck feels like you got away with robbery. Like, it's probably even a good matchup for me with all the discard and removal and graveyard hate in the sideboard. It doesn't feel comfortable. It always feels like my opponent is about to get lucky and win. Alright, well, whatever opponent is going to be doing, they're not going to be very good at doing it. Hello? And it's the mirror, and they've shocked in for some reason. We'll see what that reason is. Double torch the tower. Okay. Well. This is going to be one of those games, huh? I think I duressed them in case they happen to top deck something nasty. It doesn't really matter. I guess Go for the Throat is much better against Fear of Missing Out than Torch the Tower is, so we'll take that. Oh, it's so good. It is so good. Stone Rain. Fear of Missing Out. Dodges Torch. Get rid of our own torch. Don't need it. Take one of the torches so they can't double torch. Alright. It's not game winning. There's still Unholy Annexes to play, but that was a pretty nasty turn of events there. That's artifact, enchantment, or token, so they could do that. They can't just trade. Alright, I think I Thoughtseize, take their torch, and then play the Bloodtithe Harvester. That's probably the last time Thoughtseize is ever going to get a card. Now we just have to hope that we top deck an Unholy Annex before they do. Or that neither of us do. If neither of us top deck Unholy Annex, we win. And we have like one freebie off of that from the Withering Torment, unless they have a discard spell. Kroxa. Okay. Well, that's a slightly different version of the deck than mine, then. Still fine. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Now we just need to find a demon. 5th land counts as a demon. Maybe? And is this just Escape Kroxa? Alright, Escape Kroxa is very, very scary. There goes my second Unholy Annex. I have 2 draws at a removal spell. Technically 3, right? Since most of them are instant speed. Alright, we brick. And we hold Blood Tithe Harvester as a chump blocker. Another very cool spell, which Kroxa is going to take. Take 2. I would love to top deck a removal spell. If my opponent has Fatal Push here, then I'm doomed. But, come on, what are the odds they have Fatal Push? Apparently 100%. The classic... Alright, I'm dead here. The classic situation of your opponent not having an Unholy Annex in play, you having an Unholy Annex in play, and then they just top deck better than you. And it's like, well, I guess that happened. Unlicensed Tourist because they're a graveyard deck. Extinction Event because they have Kroxas. Annoying with Affliction because they have Kroxas. Probably 2 Thoughtseizes out. Probably 3 Thoughtseizes out for Liliana. Who am I kidding? All Thoughtseizes out. And 2 Torches out. So Fatal Push can temporarily fight a Kroxa, so it's kind of valuable. Whereas Torch the Tower realistically can't. Like, unless it's 2 for winning me. Alright. Find a match. Please say my opponent's sideboard isn't, like, completely pivoted out of the graveyard. No black mana, have to mulligan. This hand is great. No red mana, but it's all black spells. So let's bottom the Fear, I guess. And just try to play mono black. Alright, there's a Thoughtseize, unsurprisingly. Alright, so that, I want to hold on to that for later for a couple of reasons. So firstly, because it'll be untapped later. Secondly, because it conceals my draws a little bit. Still no red spells. I don't want Sheoldred to be the first creature I play. So I think I just run out the Fable here. And if they Thoughtseize my Sheoldred, then that's tough, but like... They also have Fatal Pushes and stuff, so... You know. It's more likely that they have a random removal spell that beats Sheoldred than that they have a discard spell that beats Sheoldred. Alright, Harvester draws out my Fatal Push. Decline. Invoke Despair absolutely 100% gets me a draw 3. So I'm just going to take that. 2 lands and a Blood Tithe Harvester. Not exactly the draw tree you want to see, but it's still pretty good. And one of those lands is actually Takenuma, which is fantastic. Alright. So that's great. I just draw the Go for the Throat. And I will go for the Throat that. I have an Urborg out, so Pathway on red. And play my own Shieldred. Did you keep a removal spell for it? No, you didn't. Do you immediately draw a removal spell for it? Shock. Invoke Despair. Sacrifice a creature. Keep my Shieldred. Drain you for 4. Good game. Yeah, Invoke Despair is not the thing they were looking for there. They needed a removal spell into an Invoke Despair to get rid of the Shieldred. Or for me to mess up selecting my creatures, which I guess is kind of a reasonable thing for them to play for. Like, if I select Shieldred first, and then I also lose the Fable, that would be pretty bad for me. Alright, I have Invoke Despair again. I think this time I try to play creatures, not necessarily blow. Yep, so this turns on... This makes Delirium very good for them if they have future fears. Alright, still technically don't have Delirium. I draw Fatal Push, which is actually great. So now I can Blood Tithe Harvester, and then Urborg, have Fatal Push available. Alright. Let's get rid of the fear. Not dealing with that one today. I'm a little bit worried about how exactly I'm going to fight a Shieldred, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Just keep killing their creatures. Play a tap land, because I don't have anything to do with 2 mana. Next turn I have Invoke Despair, which would be very cool. Are they just attacking me with Mutavault, or are they going to be doing something post-combat? Tapland Blade, that's fine. That gets caught up in the Invoke Despair. I almost misclicked and channeled Sokenzan, which wouldn't have been a complete nightmare, but it wouldn't have been good. Alright. Opponent is just attacking with a Mutavault every turn. Let's see, how much mana do we have? 5. So we'll go Fable plus Blood Tithe Harvester this turn. And then Shieldred. Alright, Withering Torment. You love to see it. It's a 1. It's like a 1 for a half, and it also drains them for 2. They have their own Fable, which I'm going to make very, very awkward with this Shieldred. And I think we push damage here. If they want to trade off their board, that's fine. They obviously don't. And now Blood Tithe Harvester is just an answer to an opposing Shieldred. Shieldred is so good. Like, what the heck? Oh no, another Fable. They're gonna loot again. How will I ever stop that? Yeah. Alright, we get another win. We're climbing our way up through Platinum. Alright. Let's see. Let's see what our opponents have for us this time. Hopefully not Yorion. If I could go the rest of my life without seeing a Yorion in Pioneer, I would be very happy. Alright. You have solid 1, 2, 3 curve. There's disruption, threat, selection. Okay, it's possibly worse than Yorion. Okay, no, it's not. It's Angels, which is worse for me than Yorion Game 1. Like, I need sweepers to have any chance in this matchup. So we're going to have to win 2 sideboard games in all likelihood. But I think post-board the matchup is actually quite good. There's a Giada. Alright. Well, I guess we push the Giada and don't play the Blade of the Oni for turn. And how are we going to beat the Resplendent Angels? We aren't. So, that's awkward. I do love my 3-mana 2/2s against your 3-mana 3/3 flyers. Alright, and they have Skyclave, so that I can't even look for an answer. Another land. I'm not winning this game. I'm not winning this game with 4 lands and a Blade of the Oni in hand. Let's take in all the sweepers, all the removal. Liliana counts as removal. Invoke Despair counts as removal. Duress is probably never going to hit anything ever. Bloodtithe Harvester is worse at finding me my removal spells. So I'll trim those and then cut 1 Fear of Missing Out and just try to interact with them a whole bunch until they run out of steam and die. Like, this is not really a matchup where you want to try to race them. We'll keep this. We have Torch the Tower at least. And we have Fear of Missing Out to try to find something. Shaper's Sanctuary is very good for them. So if I can Invoke Despair and get that, that would be great. But, like, I can't just not Torch the Giada. So they're just going to be drawing cards. So let's... I don't know, maybe we can pressure them out. Righteous Valkyrie. Alright, well, we can attack with the Blade of the Oni because it has Menace. And then next turn we can play Swamp Invoke Despair. And hopefully that accomplishes something. Alright, nope, they have Llanowar Elves and another Righteous Valkyrie. So they get to gain 4 here. And not lose a good creature to the Invoke Despair. They just lose a Llanowar Elves. Still gonna cast it. Gotta cast it at some point, get rid of the Shaper's Sanctuary. Alright, Annoying with Affliction is great. We love to see it. So that's 1 Valkyrie I can deal with now. Oh. Okay. Understandable. Yeah, my opponent is 34 now. Yeah, this is such a fun game. It sure is fun when your opponent plays Kayla's Reconstruction and just puts a billion power into play in a single go. Yep. Angels. Angels are like, when someone asks the question, what if, like, you were immune to sweepers because you draw a billion cards off of Shaper's Sanctuary, you are immune to being aggroed out because you gain a billion life, you're immune to being like fairly fought in combat because your creatures are just bigger than everything. Like, literally the only way to beat the deck is to go like turn 3 Anger of the Gods into turn 4 Extinction Event, into turn 5 another Extinction Event, into turn 6 probably another Anger of the Gods. And like, if you get that curve, you might, maybe, beat the Angels deck. Alright. We've got discard spells, we've got a clock, we've got a Fable. Lead on a Thoughtseize in case they don't have any non-creatures. Right, we're doing this. Okay. I guess take the 10th District Legionnaire and take the Ancestral Anger with Duress. Is this a Feather? Like, are they actually just straight up playing Feather the Redeemed? If so, that's very cool. Now, I've left them with a protection spell, which I do not love. Alright, let's play Pathway on Red, play a Fable. So now we get to at least start forcing them to cast their spells in order to get through my blockers, which hopefully will be favorable for me. Yeah, I'm taking the chump block here. So obviously they're just going to cast Defiant Strike. But that's a Defiant Strike buffed Soulscar Mage that isn't going directly to face. So I think I'm fine with that. Get rid of those two. Draw these two. Hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Alright. We will lead on Torch the Tower, and then when they try to save it, we will Fatal Push in response. Okay, they just don't try to save it. Alright, well that works for me. Play a Blood Tithe Harvester. Get a blood. I like my 2 cards, so I'm going to try to save the Fear for when I am completely out of gas. Thoughtseize is great. I would love to see what they have in hand. There's like a Feather or something. No, double Lauren's Escape. I am not at all scared of double Lauren's Escape. I think at this point we turn the corner. We play the Fear of Missing Out, and then next turn we can do Fear Reflection stuff. And they have literally nothing at the moment. Alright, we get rid of a Fatal Push, we draw a Fatal Push. They channel Sokenzan. Do I just push one of the spirits? No, I think I think neither of these cards are great in the matchup at the present moment. I'm fine discarding them. So we get rid of Unholy Annex. I will play a land, cast Fatal Push. If they want to use the Lauren's Escape on a 1/1, that's fine by me. And then I attack, untap the Reflection, untap a Fear, I guess. Reflection, make another copy of Fear. Draw a card. Alright. And then we go to combat again. We untap the Reflection. We make another copy of the Fear. And now our opponent is on the clock. So I don't have more mana to do the Reflection loop again, so I'll just make a Blood Tithe Harvester since it's the most power. Alright, you can go to 1. Alright. That's all I've got, opponent. If you can kill me from 1 with a single 1/1 creature, a Lauren's Escape, and an unknown card, then just congratulations. Yep, I did not think so. Alright, so we could... Damping Sphere is probably too cute. Hidetsugu is great. Anger is good. Liliana is probably fine. Extinction Event is just another sweeper. Anoint with Affliction is good. I think Duress is probably bad. They're mainly a creature deck. And despite how that game played out, I think we toss Blood Tithe Harvesters. Again, this is a game where we interact with them a whole lot and then win eventually with like a Sheoldred or something. We don't need to have the fastest clock in the West. Alright. I think turn 1 I just Fatal Push their Hoplite. Alright, Soulscar Mage. I guess I'll leave the Soulscar Mage around and Thoughtseize them. Take the 10th District Legionnaire. And this upcoming turn is gonna hurt. Like, they have a couple of spells to cast. Ancestral Anger off the top is very bad for me. But they just only do 3. And they play another Hoplite. None of those are protection. I think we have to pass here. Have Anoint with Affliction available for whatever they try to Monstrous Rage. Alright, and that's prevent all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. So I can still anoint you. Alright, now we no longer have removal spells, and like Reckless Rage plus Monstrous Rage, blockers are not going to be doing much. So, despite how well we've done so far, we're in a pretty bad spot. Our saving grace is we are at 13. Illuminator Virtuoso. Alright. Hidetsugu is a fine-ish draw. I think we get rid of those two. Alright. Thoughtseize you, Withering Torment the Virtuoso, I guess. Yes, take Showdown to the Scalds. Kill the Virtuoso. Alright, remember how last turn I said my saving grace was that I was at 13? I'm at 9 now. And they still have Monstrous Rage and Homestead Courage flashback. Yep. We will see if I die. If I don't die this turn, I get another blocker. I get a Hidetsugu Consumes All to kill the Soulscar Mage. So yeah, they do kind of have to do all their stuff now. I go to 3. Alright, Blade of the Oni is huge. So I blow up that. I take, I think, another point from that. Apparently not. Alright, Graveyard's exiled, Homestead Courage gone. Love to see it. Now I play a Blade. I pass the turn. And if I can untap with the Blade of the Oni and slam Unholy Annex and gain life, then I'm in great shape. Also, Hidetsugu Consumes All comes back, which is cool, I guess. Alright, please give me some life gain. I'm going to pass, so if they try to kill the Blade, I can make a copy, and that'll keep me alive for a turn, I guess. Alright. We get there, we are up to 5. And now we have enough blockers that, like, yeah. Now that we have enough blockers, even Monstrous Rage type stuff isn't necessarily going to be enough to get through. And so we take another win. I miss when you used to play against aggro decks. Hey look, Final Showdown. That's a mythic off of an ICR. That's pretty lucky. I miss when I used to play against aggro decks every so often instead of just endless Yorion piles. Like that was almost nostalgic. Alright, still waiting for an opponent. Being a bit slow this time. Alright, while we're waiting, I should get in the habit of asking people to follow if you're on Twitch, subscribe if you're on YouTube. I stream Magic's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 5. And Satisfactory's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, same time. And this hand has literally 0 castable spells. This hand is quite good. Alright, let's get rid of Harvester. I don't know why. It's between that or Fear of Missing Out. Alright, we're doing this. Well, I said I like play against aggro decks. Ask and ye shall receive, apparently. I think I'm going to play a Fear of Missing Out this turn. Discard Blade of the Oni. Another Duress does nothing. Thoughtseize does something technically. But what's my graveyard sorcery artifact? Yeah, okay, so I can Fatal Push the Thalia and start chipping in for 2. And I think we just call it basically Vigilance. Alright, backup Thalia has arrived. Fire off the Thoughtseize. Take Coppercoat Vanguard. And I think we probably attack here and it's fine. This doesn't have first strike or anything. Alright. Do I want to kill Thalia or Warden? Knowing I have a Blood Tithe Harvester in hand and a Duress, I think I want to kill Thalia. Leaving Warden alive is obviously scary. It can get big and do some scrying. But Thalia is a first striker and it messes with all of my stuff. Alright. Maybe they'll have drawn a non-creature. Nope. Nope, no non-creatures here. Just Blood Tithe Harvester. What is that? Alright. Graveyard Hate-ish. I guess we block that. So this has to hit like a bunch of times to become scary. It's just a 2-1. Well, they're going to get to activate a Warden, which is not ideal. And I do not have removal spells, which is not ideal. If I draw a land, I can play a Sheoldred. If I don't draw a land, whatever I draw is almost certainly castable, so at least there's that. Alright, torch the tower. Let's kill a... Let's kill a survivor. So we have managed to use a 1-mana spell to kill a 1-mana creature. But we are probably just going to die to these Wardens. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker is something, but they're going to draw a land and start casting these extraction specialists. And then I'm in trouble. Apparently not this turn. Alright, no blocks. Right, so they missed their timing to tap that with the Warden. Shockland is absolutely not what we're looking for. Classic. Classic card we don't want into card we want even less. We can play a Sheoldred and technically not be dead, I guess. Oh, Adeline, cool. I think that means I'm dead, right? I block 2, I take 2, 4, 5, 6, yep. Alright. The good news is, we get to bring in, like, the craziest sideboard tech of all time. Hitotsugu Consumes All is ridiculous. Duresses, I think, might literally have 0 targets. Invoke Despair is kind of mid. Liliana, Anoint with Affliction is good for killing Adelines. Liliana, I guess, is probably better than nothing. Withering Torment is painfully slow for a single target removal spell. And Blood Tithe Harvester just doesn't block anything favorably. Like, it trades with all of their things and dies to Thalia, whereas Fear of Missing Out is a 2-3, blocks most of their things pretty well. Alright, we have Hitotsugu Consumes All. We keep. So the question is then, how aggressively do I want to use my Fatal Push? And I think the answer is, like, I want to use it on a Thalia or something that can give stuff indestructible. Not necessarily on Random Dork. Another fear of missing out is pretty good. I think it's... I think I get rid of the extra fear of missing out. I want the Unholy Annex to grind. Like, once I stop their early plays, I need to actually win the game at some point. And I think that's... Unholy Annex is going to give me the card advantage to do that. Coppercoat Vanguard is a decent Fatal Push target. Adeline is a much better Fatal Push target. I just need to get Revolt. Ooh, go for the Throat. That works. That's Ward 1, right? I could have killed both of them. That's fine. Yes, I know it'll tap itself. I want the life gain. Thank you. Alright, we're in a pretty good spot here. We're drawing cards, back up to 20. We have a Thoughtseize. Double Coppercoat Vanguard is pretty strong. I'll happily trade a Fear for a Coppercoat. Alright. No Coppercoat attacks. Double Fatal Push is great. So target one of them. Pay the ward. And I target the other one. No ward this time. And I know Mutavault will tap itself. Draw a card, gain 2 life. Extraction Specialist. Return the Coppercoat Vanguard. Another Warden. Alright, so next turn, I pull the trigger on Hidetsugu, get rid of 3 creatures. Leave them with the only the Extraction Specialist as being able to attack next turn. Alright, no blocks. Down to 19. Hidetsugu consumes all. Goodbye. And fire at the Mutavault. No warnings this time, despite the fact that it was tapped to begin with. And I'll happily trade with the Specialist if they attack with it. I think we're at the point where we can't lose. Like, their deck just is not powerful enough by any means to come back from this situation. As long as I just don't do anything stupid. Alright, we pass. Draw a card, gain 2 life. Alright, opponent is... They've drawn a lot of lands as well. So now I get to get rid of these 2 Thoughtseizes, which are obviously never doing anything. Hidetsugu consumes all, becomes a creature, which is nice. I think I just jam Sheoldred here. No attacks, I'm in no rush. Opponent is going to take 1 billion damage every turn just for existing. Extraction Specialist. Thank you, Hidetsugu. Consumes all for removing the graveyards. Alright, I'm pretty sure I have lethal this turn. just kill some creatures. And go to combat with everything. I could have added a Mutavault into this. This has trample? Why does that have trample? Alright. Extraction Specialist has life gain, but ping you for 2 with the Mutavault. And that's a pretty easy game. Run it back. Hopefully the same thing happens again. We go back and forth a little bit, and then Hidetsugu consumes their souls. As it does in the lore, probably. I don't know. Alright, this hand doesn't have a sweeper, and I think that's enough to mulligan it all on its own. This hand is fantastic. Do I keep all of the spells and just say, yeah, I'll hit a land? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna hit my 3rd land naturally. That seems fine. Blood Crypt tapped. Save 2 life. Alright, Fear of Missing Out is a great draw. It lets me get rid of this Fable of the Mirror Breaker in search of a 3rd land, which I'm now starting to get worried about. Please give me literally any land in my deck. It would be very cool. Alright, Adeline. It's no good here. Alright. We have received our wish of literally any land. And I think this turn we anoint the Adeline and have Fatal Push available. And then in the future, if they don't have anything so scary individually to kill, we can Liliana. Or we can... Alright. Ossification is fine here. So that's a card and mana out of their hand. I think I push the Warden. So if they play a creature, Liliana. Alright. We don't hit the 4th land, but we do have a Liliana.
And you think you can win?
So that is probably going to be pretty good for me. Alright, they get empty-handed. They take the Liliana out, which is approximately fine. Alright. I will torch the Initiate and play a Fear, pitching the Extinction event. Hold on to the Hidetsugu consumes all. Right. Coppercoat Vanguard is super, super awkward for them to draw. CMC 2. And this Thoughtseize is literally never going to hit anything. So we're going to get rid of it. They get the Warden back, so at least we can Hidetsugu something. Alright. Tap land is probably not good enough. Unholy Annex is probably good enough. So these attacks are pretty good. So if they block the Goblin Shaman, if they don't block the Goblin Shaman, then that would be pretty cool. Alright. That changes my plan a little. I think in that case, I just consume everything. Rest in peace, my treasure token. But now opponent has nothing, and I'm getting a Fable flipped. Alright. Real Screw versus Flood. But I'm just doing objectively more powerful things at this point. I'm going to play the Annex to start drawing cards. My life total is not going to be in danger this game. Alright, play a Mutavault, play a Blade of the Oni. This isn't legendary, right? Alright, make a copy of you, and attack with it. Start chipping away opponent's life total. Alright, that's an Adeline. But they don't even have attacks. That's Ward 1, right? Alright. Vessel of the All-Consuming, get in there. Do some work. So I could have killed a Coppercoat Vanguard and kept my Vessel, which would have been pretty neat, but like, Adeline is scary. The Vessel is by no means necessary to win. Alright. Shieldred in hand. Opponent has a Wedding Announcement, which I guess makes them some guys. Yeah, I think I just trade off so they have literal nothing. And I guess the Reflection attack is safe. That's the sorcery. And now they die probably next turn. Thalia's Lieutenant, not doing anything here. Just turns a 1-1 into a 2-2. Makes no difference. Alright. Now, I can do the very cool thing of make a demon, copy the demon to give it haste, and attack, and you are dead in the air. I really love playing against aggro decks. It is genuinely fun. Alright. Maybe one more match, maybe two, depending on the speed. Get another random card. Sure, why not? Alright, my opponent has the Veteran Explorer badge, which means very little, but they have it, so there you go. We'll see what they're up to with a Duress. Alright, they are playing aggro again. Well, I'm definitely not shock thought seizing my opponent here. I think we just tap land, Fatal Push the Swift Spear. Alright. Now we go Mutavault Fable. So this will give us some selection, get this useless Thoughtseize out of our hand, and probably draw a Burn Spell. It might draw Play with Fire at some point if I'm lucky. Oh, I get to get 2 Thoughtseizes out of my hand. How fun. Goodbye, you two. Now we attack, get a treasure, play Blade of the Oni, play Fear of Missing Out. I think Fatal Push could be useful to have, but I think at this point it's too late for it to be, like... I guess they're pointing removal spells at creatures, so maybe Fatal Push would have been good to have. Alright, I have officially gained 5 life off of that, which is pretty good. Keep a note of that. If they'd ignore the creatures, I'd be at 10. Alright, Fear of Missing Out is a great draw, as usual. Love to draw a card for free. And it's an Unholy Annex. Alright. Technically this is risky. If this last spell is a burn spell and they point it at the demon, then I'm in a little bit of trouble. But I think even in that case, like, they could have pointed at my face and also deal 2 anyway. So it's like fine. Alright, I've gained 2 life. This game is ended. Pretty much guaranteed. Alright, so I can make a second Unholy Annex. Alright, can't gain life this turn. We will attack, get some treasures. Not going too crazy with Reflection Fear. So the reason I want the Reflection is if they kill the Mutavault, I can Reflection make a copy of it. I think that's how that works. Well, yeah, it should be. Especially if I have the mana for it with these treasures. Alright, the corner is being turned. Fire up the Mutavault. And end the turn. Not going to gain life here because of the Skullcrack, but... Draw 2, drain you for 4 is still pretty good. I'm at 14, they have 2 cards in hand. Alright. I will make a Fear of Missing Out just to filter. Don't need this extra land. Blood Tithe Harvester is also not exactly valuable, but... Alright, another Skullcrack, but it's not going to be enough to kill me, so reasonable concession. Now what do we bring in? Hidetsugu Consumes All, I guess, is technically good. Thought Seizes are out. Withering Torment is out. So I need to bring in 2 more cards. I guess Anger of the Gods to clear up creatures. It's not super obvious. Like that, literally anything is better than a Thoughtseize or a Withering Torment in this matchup, but doesn't mean it's much better. Alright, this hand is unusable. This hand is 1 lander. I guess we keep this. Throw away 2 lands. I need colored mana sources, or I'd keep the Mutavault. Alright, Liliana's a good top deck. So the thing Liliana does is she pluses, takes burn spells out of their hand, potentially. Bolt Wave, light up the stage into more Bolt Waves and Searing Bloods. I'm just not gonna play a Blood Tithe Harvester when there's a Searing Blood face up. Alright, now the Searing Blood is no longer face up. I guess I will play a Blood Tithe Harvester now. Please don't have a Searing Blood. They did. Yeah, I think Game 3 Blood Tithe Harvesters come out. I think we get rid of that. We just need to find another land. Sheoldred's not another land. Alright, that's fine. I can kill the den and survive a turn. I guess I'll play a Blade of the Oni in case I top deck an Unholy Annex at some point in the future. Hardcast Light Up the Stage into Eidolon. Alright. Well, I do find another land, so that's nice. I have to play into this Eidolon, which is not nice. I guess we attack here. It's probably right to be on blocks, but I have a Fatal Push, so like if they play a hasty creature. Alright. Goodbye, Needlehead. I guess we Liliana Plus. Like, probably they just cast a spell in response. Nope, it was a land. Alright. This turn we don't have removal up. So it's kind of hard to tell. I think this turn I stay respecting a hasty creature. Alright, Brotherhood End. But I have a Sheoldred. Liliana's not going to be plussing here. Alright, I have a Sheoldred, which makes me feel pretty good about myself here. I can go up to 6. Play a Fable. Still not plussing Liliana. If I can untap and discard, go for the throat, some other random card to Fable gain 4, I will be a very, very happy camper. Lightning Helix. Yeah, okay. Is Unholy Annex worth keeping? No, I don't currently have a demon. Alright. Pretty cool. Yep. Opponent sees the writing on the wall there. The rare 2-0 against a burn deck. Alright, that was a lightning fast round. We can do another one. Alright, we find an opponent, and they have a Sarkhan avatar, which doesn't really mean anything. Yorion. I guess I'll keep this against a Yorion deck. Maybe it works. It doesn't really matter what I keep against a Yorion deck, since I'm going to lose anyways, but maybe this will work. Stomping Ground. Alright, we got to hit them with a Duress. Double Bring to Light, double A-Line Binding. Very cool. Appreciate that, opponent. Just making everything I do irrelevant. Well, here we are, playing an unwinnable matchup, as usual. So they can... Alright, well, Thoughtseize takes second Bring to Light is clutch. They Leyline Binding in response, unsurprisingly. And I can never beat a Resolve Bring to Light, so I have to take it. And I guess I'll play a Fable since I can't play a Sheoldred. So they have Leyline Binding if I play Sheoldred. They have Deadly Cover-Up if I play Blade of the Oni plus Blood Tithe Harvester. This game is super over, I think. Let's discard 2 Blades. Alright. Duress. Duress is pretty good. So I can Duress take the Deadly Cover-Up. Unmoored Ego in the main deck. That is wild. Alright, so now they at least don't have a sweeper, so I can play out all of my creatures. And hopefully they don't draw a sweeper. Main deck Unmoored Ego is wild. Like, that is lunacy. It's not particularly good against me, which is a positive. Like, it's not bad. Like, they could name Sheoldred here, and it would be a good read. They could name Unholy Annex, because it's really good as well. Just adding Yorion to hand. We draw an Annex. But we go to combat first. And they have all basic lands, right? Mountain, swamp, island, plains, forest. So I think in that case I make Ritual Chamber. So this is considerably better against Leyline Binding than anything else, because even if they kill the demon, then I still have the Annex itself. Now, Leyline Binding plus Yorion is disgusting. So they get to bounce that and take probably the Annex. Let's see if they take the wrong one. Now they're just going to take both. Alright, so I can kill the Yorion here. Or I could play a Sheoldred. I think the play is... Actually, I can do both. So you give that -6, -6. Then we attack, make a treasure, and play a Sheoldred. If that card doesn't deal with Sheoldred, you lose. Alright. We get there. All it takes is getting pretty lucky. Invoke Despair is good. Fatal Push does nothing. Go for the Throat does something. Withering Torment is actually pretty good. Unmoored Ego, Deadly Cover-Up. Wild. Let's bring in Liliana. None of the rest of these cards really scream to me as being relevant in the matchup. So we're just going to try to do something along those lines again. I guess maybe last game knowing that... No, it was probably still right to make the demon. I was thinking, like, knowing that they have Leyline Binding Yorion, I might not want to put a token in play. But I think just... I think just, like, forcing them to do that specific line is probably just better. Alright, Dress you. Take up the Beanstalk. Thoughtseize to take Bring to Light, which can wait a little bit. So we can play a Blood Tithe Harvester this turn to start the pressure. And then this turn we can Thoughtseize plus Fear. Of course, they top deck another Beanstalk. Classic Thoughtseize. The way you have to think about it is that if I hadn't done that, they'd have 2 Beanstalks, which would be insane. Take the Bring to Light. Play another Harvester. So they have this Cornucopia, which is going to gain them some life and ramp them. Hopefully it won't gain them enough life, though. Ancient Cornucopia, they're going to Assassin's Trophy one of my Harvesters, I assume. I'll make them do that. Man, if I had drawn a land and I could invoke Despair there, that would have been pretty cool. Alright. I think I take their last card here. It's another Cornucopia. Not the worst thing in the world to take. Alright, this Torch the Tower is going to get blood tokened. And what's Sorcery Creature Enchantment? So that'll even turn on Delirium, which is pretty great. Alright, Delirium active, they Leyline Binding. Only gain 1 life, which is something at least, and it's not hitting a token, so they don't get free value out of the Yorion in the future. Alright, and I find a 5th land. I think I keep Takenuma. It's like reasonably likely to be a spell at some point. Alright, Invoke Despair, take probably up the Beanstalk. If I were them, I would leave me with Leyline, I would leave Leyline Binding. Well, they're thinking about getting rid of Leyline Binding. They give me a creature back. That is huge. Alright, and then they Lightning Helix it immediately. Still, though, that is just a removal spell that is not going on towards this Blood Tithe Harvester. Alright, Yorion's still not in hand, so still can't cast it immediately. They're putting it in hand this turn. Duress, notably worse than Thoughtseize here. Blood token away a pathway, try to find something. Remember how I mentioned Duress was notably worse than Thoughtseize? Thoughtseize is notably as good as Thoughtseize. Take your Yorion. Play a Haunted Ridge. What creatures do I have in here? I might spike into a Shieldred, and that would be cool. No, let's take a Fear of Missing Out. Alright, we can't get too excited, because they could top deck a Bring to Light at any minute and win the game on the spot. And even if they don't, they have gain. Alright, I think Fable probably loses me the game. Like, I can't realistically attack into that. It's going to give them a redraw in the future. So I will attack into it and see if they chump, see if they trade. Then I'll play another Harvester. That Fable just buys them so many draws. Like, a truly absurd amount of draws towards a Bring to Light. And they apparently don't find it, although it is a castable spell, probably. They didn't play a land this turn. Alright, well, we're going to see. Liliana. Unholy Annex.
The mysteries. I've come for answers.
Discard that card, whatever it is. Okay, it was a land. They just kept it for some reason. Alright, now they're really low, and I have an Annex in play. I think we might win this. We might be boosting our win rate against Yorion decks. So I'm also pretty low. Alright, don't be Bring to Light. Don't be Bring to Light. They're hovering it. It's something good. It's freaking Bring to Light. Alright, so they get... Alright, they chose to gain 2, which is incorrect. Assuming they're getting a 5-color spell. Like, they could have chosen to gain 5. Or... Alright. They're just getting a sweeper. That's fine, actually. That doesn't really solve their problem at all. Like... Okay, they draw extra cards. It's good for them. But they're still at a very low life total against an Unholy Annex. What are they taking? What do they take? Thoughtseize? Alright, well, I'm not going to complain about that. Do I play Sheoldred? Do I fire off the Ritual Chamber? I think I play Sheoldred. And... I guess I'll plus Liliana. It stings to get rid of the Fable, but...
Drop it.
Probably better get rid of Pillage the Bog. Which means their last card is also playable. Backup Sheoldred is lovely. Alright, they draw their card, which means Sheoldred has done her job. Biza gains them a billion life. Doesn't do anything else, though. And it's 4, not 5, so not great with Up the Beanstalk. I would love to be the one gaining life for a change. I'll attack with Sheoldred. They want to chump with the Biza. That's fine. Obviously, like, if I could bait them into not chumping with Biza and taking 4, that's also pretty good for me. They're considering it. They are considering it. Alright, each player discards a card. I think it's Fable again, because Sheoldred triggers are how I win the game. Now I unlock Ritual Chamber, and they die. Nice playing, opponent. You had the Bring to Light in your hand, and you chose to lose the... You chose to lose the game instead of chumping with Biza. Like, I didn't do anything secret. That was just punting to onboard lethal. And if they had gotten the Bring to Light, who knows what would have happened. Their first Bring to Light was pretty bad, so maybe their deck is just bad. But yeah, we take a win. We take a legitimate win against a Yorion deck. It's 4:55. Not going to start another match now. This is a pretty good run of matches. We'll be back here tomorrow for more Satisfactory. And if you're only interested in Magic, that's going to be on Tuesday, where we'll probably be doing more of this.